I'm here with David Estrada. He is training for his upcoming fight April 13th, and we're at the South Florida Boxing Gym in Miami Beach, Florida. David, your last high-profile fight was a brutal fight against Kermit Cintron, who is now the IBF welterweight champion. What do you think happened in that fight that caused you to get knocked out in the 10th round when it was a close fight up to that point?
Well, first of all, I wasn't knocked out by Kermit. I was knocked out by the ref. I could have continued and maybe even knocked him out in the last round, but I didn't get that chance. What happened was I wasn't focused, and I had a lot of distractions in my life at the time, and the biggest thing was that I had to lose 7 pounds the day of the weigh-in, and that came from me not being focused and doing things the right way like I was supposed to be doing. But now I'm much more focused and ready to do things the right way and get back up into the top rankings and become champ.
What weight class do you plan on being in?
Welterweight.
Okay. You had a great win over Chris Smith in a fight that everything seemed to be going your way. Was that due to your opponent, or do you feel that you were at your best that night?
No, I felt like I was at my best that night.
Okay. You have lost against 3 good fighters. If you could analyze your 3 losses against Issy Smith, Shane Mosley, and Kermit Cintron, do you feel that there are any common characteristics to those fights?
Not at all. They were all different. The loss to Issy Smith, that was due. I took the fight when I had the flu. I was very sick when I took the fight, and whoever saw the fight could clearly see whose face looked like they got beat up and who looked clean after the fight. I was clean. I looked like I did a 4-round sparring session, and he looked pretty banged up. Basically, that's what happened with that fight. You know, I was very weak, and he won by decision because he threw more punches. The Mosley fight, I could have did a couple of things different, you know, like use a few more jabs and working my way in with the jab. And if I would have had 2 more rounds, if it would have been a 12-round fight instead of a 10, I think it would have turned out different. But once again, it is what it is, and I had 10 rounds and not 12, so Mosley won that fight. And then the Kermit fight, like I said, the ref had a lot to do with it, but you know, that's the way it goes. Sometimes you get a ref that sees things different than the fans or the other fighters.
So you thought you could continue then after you were knocked down in the Cintron fight?
Definitely, and I really wasn't even knocked down. He caught me with a good shot, and I was a little bit woozy, and then if you notice, he pushed my hand, and that's what caused me to go down. And when I got up, then the ref waved it off. If he wouldn't have pushed my hand, I would have never went down.
Okay. What do you feel about your fighting needs to be improved the most?
The most, I think, what needed to be improved is my life outside the ring, so I could be focused. And now I got that all straightened out, so I think everything's where it's supposed to be.
Okay. You have become popular locally, but you've never fought at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, where contenders and champions have been fighting lately. Do you aspire to one day have a fight at the Hard Rock?
Well, you know, it really doesn't matter where I fight at, because to me a fight's a fight. And I mean, I wouldn't mind fighting there, but there's a lot of other places to fight in South Florida also, so it really doesn't matter. My fans will go watch me fight wherever I fight.
Okay. It appears that you're selective about who you fight, because you have only 22 fights, but the caliber of your opponents is unusual for someone with that many fights. Do you feel that the quality of opponents is more important than the quantity of opponents?
Not necessarily. Well, I mean, I do feel that the quality is better than quantity, but at the same time, getting back to me not being focused in the past is the reason why I only have the few amount of fights that I have within a 7-year professional career. I should have had a lot more fights.
Now, are you still being trained by Angelo Dundee or just Louis Lagerman?
Just Louis Lagerman.
Okay. You have had bouts canceled due to injury and illness. Most recently, your fight against Walter Mathis was canceled. Do you feel that you have been labeled injury-prone or illness-prone?
Not at all, because I think I've only done that twice. This fight was due to a very severe cold, maybe even a flu. I really still don't know what it was. I just know I was very sick. And then I believe the first time that I did that was due to a hand injury against, I believe it was Smith, the first time. That's why I didn't cancel it the second time, and I took the fight being sick, because I got so fed up with passing the fight up. And I was just like, I could go in there and knock this guy out even if I'm sick. That's the way I felt, because I didn't feel like there was really, much to it. So I did it, and then the outcome was what it was,
Okay. According to sources on the internet, you have never signed with a manager or promoter. Since your loss to Cintron, is it more difficult for you to get the fights you want because you have less leverage than before?
You could say that I've never had a manager, and I've been signed with DeBella for the past couple years, so I have had a promoter, and now I'm also working with Sino Group, which is another promotional company that just came out. So I'm being promoted by Sino Group and by DeBella co-promotions. So I think I have better opportunities, having two promoters instead of one, because they could work together to get me where I need to be.
Right. And I know that Francisco Elgato Figueroa is with Sino Group, and you both have been sparring together. What was that like?
It was great, great sparring. It's always good to have a good southpaw around to spar with, because a lot of fighters, they don't know how to deal with southpaws. I do, but it doesn't hurt to stay sharp when it comes to that, because you could definitely get rusty if you don't have a good southpaw around to spar with.
Okay. Since your fight against Cintron, do you feel that the powers that be in boxing consider you to be a gatekeeper to the division? In other words, is there a perception that you are able to beat opponents who are below the level of a champion but not the elite in the division?
Yeah, I feel like that's what, the people in boxing, like the writers or promoters or managers or what have you, I feel that that statement you made was correct.
Okay. You were thinking about being on the first season of The Contender. Do you regret not being on the show, or are you happy with your decision after seeing what happened to Ishii Smith's career?
I'm happy with my decision. I would have made the final cut. I would have definitely been on the show, but I didn't like the way the contract was set up, and I didn't like the whole thing about the 5-round fights. I'm just getting warmed up by the 5th round, so I knew it wasn't for me.
Okay. Would you be willing to fight someone like Grady Brewer, the champion on the second season of The Contender, in order to increase your popularity?
Definitely. I'd fight him, K9, whoever. I'd fight either one of them.
Okay. Your fights have been televised on HBO, Showtime, and ESPN. When do you anticipate that you will be in a high-profile fight in the future?
Probably next year sometime. I got this fight coming up, then maybe one more. Maybe at the end of this year or beginning of next year. It just depends, how the fights that the promoters pick for me, they pick the fights and I fight them. It's really not up to me. I'll fight anybody.
And do you think that you have been televised so much because of your aggressive style that fight fans seem to like?
Definitely. I know that that people like my style because I don't box. I come to fight. I'm not the type of fighter that wants to get in there and stick and move and try to look pretty. I want to stand in the middle of the ring and exchange and go toe to toe. And that's what the fans want to see. They don't want to see one guy running for his life and the other guy trying to trap him for the whole fight.
Okay. And your fight on April 13th is against David Toribio. Toribio's last fight was against Aramasoli Albert, and he lost by TKO in the 7th round. What do you know about Toribio, and have you seen him fight?
I've never seen him fight. All I know about him is that he's 5'11". That means he's taller than me, and he probably has longer reach than me. And from what I've heard, I heard that he's a pretty good boxer. So what I got to do is take my time, work off my jab, and once I get inside, just do what I like to do best, which is, just rip them apart.
Well, thank you for your time, David, and good luck April 13th.
Thank you.